Hey, Braves fans, the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel are bringing you Braves baseball all season long. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I'll be bringing you Braves baseball play-by-play for the Braves fans out there, for all of Braves country. So pull up an armchair and join us for Braves country baseball, first pitch to last pitch, Tuesday and Friday nights, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by The Best Things in Life, which are still free with minimum purchase at participating dealers.
The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but one inning more to play. And then TGIF on the Armchair Quarterbacks. Justin Waller and Mac McGee are back at it 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern every Friday evening right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel and your local CBS Sports affiliates. We're talking the NFL, Major League Baseball, and Southern football, so grab you a cold one. It's finally Friday on the Armchair Quarterbacks, 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. Waller and McGee getting you ready for your sports weekend.
So imagine how much I'm actually making to play. You know what I'm saying? No, I got to get my money. I'm not playing unless I get mine. It's not worth it. It's not.
For the first time in 39 years, the Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Out of the zone. The Colorado Avalanche have won the Stanley Cup. Raymond Moore, a dream has come true. They score with 28.8 seconds left. The Leafs have tied the game. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Armchair Quarterbacks Radio, covering the NHL like no other.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
I can't file. I can't type. I don't take dictation. I won't sharpen pencil. My boss calls me indispensable.
Miss Jones,
Just a minute.
will you make a copy of this?
Naturally. I push the button on the Xerox 914. I make perfect copies of whatever my...
Hey, Braves fans, the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel are bringing you Braves Baseball all season long. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I'll be bringing you Braves Baseball play-by-play for the Braves fans out there, for all of Braves country. So pull up an armchair and join us for Braves Country Baseball, first pitch to last pitch, Tuesday and Friday nights, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the ground. Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Welcome, Armchair Quarterbacks. It's the Monday morning quarterback here with Mac McGee, and we are set to bring you the topics of the morning. We got started a little late this morning. We're going to be doing this much earlier going forward, but I had some things I had to get taken care of. So we're going to go ahead and hit the ground running. The first thing we'll go over is the U.S. Open. Won't spend a whole lot of time on that because, honestly, I think it was kind of a dud. And the reason why I say that, it's not that it wasn't a good U.S. Open per se, but I don't think a lot of people got into Matt Fitzpatrick, Scotty Scheffler, Will Zalatoris being the top three names at the end. I think we would have been a lot more enthused by this if you would have maybe if Morikawa would have made a better run. Definitely if Rory McIlroy would have been in there. Didn't have a lot of the stars that we expected. John Rahm had a bad day, and the list goes on, and really was just kind of a dud. So we'll look forward to the U.S. The British Open, or as they call it, the Open nowadays. When I was growing up, it was always the British Open. They changed that about 15 years ago. Why, I don't know. But the British Open is headed your way in July, and that'll be the end of the golf season for all intents and purposes, because unless you're a diehard golf fan, that's pretty much where it ends. I don't think a lot of people get jazzed up for all these different events that go on during the fall when you've got football season, you got Major League Baseball playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. I do think it was a great idea for Major League Baseball to yes, in Major League Baseball. We're about to hit that next. I do think it was a really good idea for the PGA to get all of their tournaments out of the way before we get to football season. You know, they did that for years and years and years. And I didn't like it when you would see them go head to head with going into football season and you're trying to keep up with the PGA Championship. So good job by PGA, and we move on from there. All right. The next thing up would be the fact that you've got some things going on in Major League Baseball. And I would say the biggest thing right now would be looking at the standings and where are we, right? I think a lot of people want to pay attention to that at some point. When you hit June, and we're definitely deep into June at this point, when you hit June, you really do have to start looking at where you are on the actual season, because as we go further and further and further, we're only about 6 weeks, if that, away from the MLB trading deadline. And so your team, are they in it? And we'll go ahead and hit that real quick. The biggest thing that I see, we'll go ahead and start with the NL East, as that's obviously the one that I keep up with the most, as I do the Braves games every day. The Atlanta Braves got a win yesterday, and I do believe it was a big win. And it's not a big win because they beat the Cubs. We all know the Cubs are terrible, but they faced some pretty tough conditions there in Chicago. The wind was blowing in all weekend long. And what was impressive was the fact that they finally got their heads on right yesterday. Incredible pitch game by Ian Anderson. He went 7 innings yesterday, much more improved than he has been. And I feel like that he felt like that he could be a little more aggressive because of the wins in Chicago. That, look, let's face it, they were brutal on Friday. You got 1 run in the entire game, right? And then you end up with the game on Saturday. Really wasn't much better conditions. The wind was blowing straight in from center field. Now, yesterday it was a little different. You got the winds coming in from, right field, pushing over to left. So the ball carried out a little bit on left. And we saw that because Travis d'Arnaud cracked that 3-run home run, and away the Braves went. They got that 3-0 lead, and I really think it calmed them down. They had a few more runs as the game went on. But when I look at yesterday's game, the biggest thing that jumps out at me, if you get past Ian Anderson's incredible performance, but you kind of have come to expect that from Anderson, especially when he's going up against the lesser teams. You take a look at what Michael Harris is doing. He goes out and he hits another home run, his 3rd of the year. The kid's hitting 321 now, 321 and an 884 OPS, which is even more incredible. He has a higher OPS than anyone in the starting lineup yesterday, not named William Contreras. That is saying something very, very special. And we know Contreras plays sparingly. So when he goes out and has a big game, it spikes his numbers exponentially. But Harris, to me, is turning into a kid. And it's so tricky. A lot of fans want them to move Harris out of the 9 spot so you have to face him more. But there's something to be said with having Harris at the bottom of that lineup. And it's basically you're getting to a leadoff hitter even quicker. So I'll be interested to see if Snicker does keep him at the bottom of the order, because when he comes up to bat, then you've got Acuna and Swanson and all rolls over. Would you dare put Harris at the top of the order and have Acuna bat second? They've tried that in years past, having Acuna all over the place, and he's really much more comfortable as the leadoff hitter because, honest engine, Acuna is not a polished hitter compared to where he will be in a few years. So he's still learning how to take counts deep into the count. He's still learning a lot of things, and you kind of like having Acuna as a free swinger up there. The other option you could do is you could put Harris at the 2 spot, because he does a very good job of working counts. And Acuna, he would basically just be a second leadoff hitter. And if Acuna does get on, Harris does a great job of moving him over, and then just bring the entire order down. Because I wouldn't drop Dansby. Dansby's been playing incredible, but you got Dansby as your number 3 hitter. You like that. You put Riley, who's struggled a little bit, but he's got that pop. You put him at 4. And away we go. And, we could dissect it every single day. I still think that when Ozuna plays, he's a little too high in the order. I'd like to see him a little further down. I would like to see whoever's behind the plate hitting behind Riley, whether it's Contreras or whether it is Darnode. Both of them have better production than Ozuna. Ozuna is just too damn streaky. But let's go ahead and get into the standings and all the other teams in Major League Baseball. The New York Mets. Now they've got a big game today in about an hour. They're going to be playing the Marlins. They've kind of weathered the tide. Look, they haven't had their top 2 studs at the top of the rotation for the majority of the year. And there's no telling when DeGrom's going to come back. Scherzer, they made it sound like it'd be sometime in July. We'll see what happens. But they've had other injuries pop up, and they continue to win. Now, look, they've got to play Miami this week. Today, they're going to go on, and they're going to play the Houston Astros. And then they are going to go back and play the Marlins in Miami at the end of the week. They're actually at the Astros Tuesdays and Wednesday. And then I believe they're off Thursday, and then they get the series in Miami. Miami normally plays them really well, especially in Miami. So we'll see how that goes. With that being said, the Braves start a 4-game series against San Fran and a 3-game series against the Dodgers. And that all begins today. So you'll have 7 days of Braves baseball, and then you get a day off, and then you're going to go 20 days without a day off going into the All-Star break. And a lot of this has to do with the makeup games because of the lockout. That's going to be a brutal test. And beginning today, and this is significant, you can no longer carry 14 pitchers. It has to be 13 on the 26-man roster. That comes at a bad time if you're a Braves fan, because it's going to be tricky. And I guarantee you what you're going to see with Sticker, because we saw him do it last year. We've seen him do it every year. There's going to be games that if he feels like his team's out of it, he's going to let someone take it one for the team. If Atlanta's down 3 runs in the 6th, he'll just keep rolling them out there because he doesn't want to blow up his bullpen for a loss. And it'll drive you mad because if you get some rally runs in the 7th, 8th inning, in the 9th, let's say you score 4 or 5 in the last 3 innings, but you left one of your tired arms in there and he gives up another 2 or 3 runs and you end up losing the game by a run. It drives you nuts, but that's the MO of Snicker, and I don't see him changing it. It might be a little more aggressive considering the fact this week he's at home. He would like to have a good homestand and you get the day off on Monday. But once you come out of that day off on Monday, it's going to be rough. After that, look, the Phillies have hung in there as well. How about the Phillies? They lost yesterday, but they've won 7 of their last 10. We'll get to the wild card here in 1 second. Right now, Mets are 5.5 over Atlanta, 8 in front of Philly. So they're not quite running away with it yet. And both Atlanta and Philly, I think, are going to have something to say with who makes the playoffs in the National League before it's all said and done. A big series that is going to start tonight is St. Louis is going to be playing the Milwaukee Brewers. And those two teams are in a flat-footed tie in the Central. They're at 38-30. It's Mikolas versus Burns tonight. If you're wanting to catch that nationally, it is going to be on FS1, I see. So Mikolas versus Burns should be a hell of a game, hell of a series, and they'll play Monday night. Tuesday night, if you're trying to catch that game, I don't believe that's national. It is not national, but it's Flaherty versus Ashby. It seems that Ashby is set to be okay. Remember, he came out Thursday's game with the forearm issue, but it looks like he will pitch. And Wainwright versus Lauer on Wednesday, and that doesn't appear that is a national game either, which I'm a little surprised that's not like an ESPN game of the week or whatever. That is a very, very big series, and that series will actually be a 4-game series. Thursday afternoon at 2:00, Cardinals Brewers, Hudson versus Alexander. So a huge series. It's in Milwaukee, all 4 games. And look, I think Milwaukee, the way they've been kind of scuffling, they bare minimum need to split that at home against St. Louis. And I would say that if you're a Cardinal fan, you want to split the series, bare minimum. You don't want to drop 3 or 4. You can live with it because it's on the road, but you really don't want that situation. Big game tonight, because whoever gets the win tonight, they can kind of set the table for the rest of the week. Another big series that begins tonight. Yankees are at the Rays. Now, as far as the standings go, not that big a deal, right? Yankees are rolling. They are 11 games in front of the Toronto Blue Jays in the AL East. 13 in front of the Tampa Bay Rays and 13.5 in front of Boston. Tampa Bay had a rough weekend. They went into Baltimore. They lost 2-3. What the hell are you doing, Tampa? I mean, Baltimore, really? So they've got to kind of right the ship. And remember, they just got smoked by the Yankees in New York. So they would like to turn those tables around, and it begins tonight. And tonight's game is Cole versus McClanahan. Hell of a pitching matchup. And little surprised that's not a national game of the week, but it is not. I guess Tampa Bay doesn't get the fans, but that should be one hell of a game. I do plan on keeping an eye on that one. The rest of the series, neither team has announced starters for Tuesday. That game is at 7:00 Eastern tonight and tomorrow night and Wednesday night. And Baz is going to go to the mound for the Rays on Wednesday, but the Yankees have not made an announcement on who their starting pitcher will be. And so you have that. The Yankees are going to be starting, by the way, a 4-game series at home after that against the Houston Astros, which should be a really fun series to watch. And that begins on Thursday. That's Thursday night, and that is going to be on MLB Network. So if you get a chance to catch that Thursday night on MLB Network, that should be a fun one to watch. Other series of interest that get going tomorrow, we already talked about the Braves and San Fran start today. By the way, that is Webb versus Free. That's a hell of a pitching matchup. Tomorrow night, we'll have the call. Strider is set to go for Atlanta. They have not announced a starter for the Giants. A couple of reasons for that we don't have time to get into. Rodon versus Morton on Wednesday. That is a night game. And then we're going to do a special pop-up game Thursday morning, or Thursday at 12:20. It'll be Wood versus Wright. That'll be game 4 of that series. And then Friday night, Freddie Freeman comes back to Atlanta for the first time. And that's going to be a huge, huge sellout joint. The place is going to be rocking, and that should be a really fun series. The starters haven't been announced for those, but you can kind of do the math in your head if you're a Braves fan, who that most likely will be. In all likelihood, it'll be Ian Anderson on the mound on Friday, since they do not have a day off this week. And then you would get Fried and Strider on Sunday. So that's what's going on there. By the way, Braves Dodgers is a Sunday night game this week. So it'll be the ESPN game of the week. And Other big series in Major League Baseball this week. Later in the week, you get Blue Jays at Brewers. That's a fun one. And the Red Sox are at Cleveland, along with Phillies are at San Diego. And so a lot of big series as we look forward to this week in baseball. Now, looking at the standings out west real quick in the National League, Dodgers are a half game in front of the Padres. And they've been going back and forth, seesaw battle. San Fran's just 3 out. So the series for San Francisco is huge going into Atlanta for 4. They don't want to go in there and get pummeled. So they're going to be fighting it out because they don't want to get left behind in the I believe the Dodgers are playing the Reds in the early part of the week. And as far as the Padres go, San Diego will be playing the Diamondbacks. So those are 2 series where, let's say the Giants go out and drop 3 or 4 to Atlanta, they could lose a lot of ground while the Dodgers are pummeling the Reds, and the Padres are doing the same to the Diamondbacks in San Diego. So should be a hard fought series. And tonight, I get your popcorn ready. Fried versus Webb, 2 of the best young arms in baseball in both playoff tests. I feel like it's going to be a playoff atmosphere in Atlanta. All right, looking at the standings in the American League, the East is I'm calling it. The Yankees have won the AL East. That is the one division that is over. In the second division that's probably over, I'm still giving a couple of teams a pulse in there, is the AL West. Houston is 9.5 games in front of the Angels, 10 in front of the Rangers, and 13 in front of the Mariners. So 2 of your 3 divisions are actual blowouts. The National League, there is a much deeper league, and you in the American League, what you have is a bunch of haves and have-nots. In the National League, it's a little more evenly distributed. It's funny, I keep seeing these. I saw a couple of comments on social media where people are upset that the ESPN Sunday night game of the week has predominantly been a National League game all this year. Well, if you look at the standings, who the hell is going to sit there and watch a game that means nothing? But you can grab any National League game of, we'll say, we're sitting here towards the end of June, and there are still an easy argument for 8 teams vying for 6 spots. And you could even convince me that the Marlins and the Diamondbacks have if they were to get hot, either one of those teams could have a legitimate shot at the last wild card. In the American League, it's done. 2 of the divisions are done. Now the Central looks like it's going to be a lot of fun this summer because you got the Twins leading it. They're 1 game in front of the Guardians, but they're 5 in front of the White Sox. And the funny thing about that is the White Sox were predominant favorites to run away with that division. So we know at some point the White Sox are going to get hot, and it's can the Twins, can the Guardians fend them off? I think what's happening in Cleveland is remarkable. And I hope they keep it up all summer because the Cleveland fans are very dedicated baseball fans. And look, they look like that they were in sell mode, and here they are. They've gotten some young arms to compete. They've gotten some offense where in places that I don't think they expected to get, especially the amount of production. And they are in what I figure is going to be a 3-team race the entire summer. If the Guardians fall off, it wouldn't shock me, but I think they've got enough in them to make a real run. You look at the American League East, your top 3 teams for the wild card, Blue Jays, Rays, and Red Sox, that's a real possibility that all 3 of those teams could make it into the playoffs. Now, right now, the Guardians are tied with the Rays for the number 2 spot in the American League wildcard race. And Rays, Red Sox, and Blue Jays, the one thing the Guardians have going for, those 3 teams are going to have to play each other a lot down the stretch. They have to play the Yankees. And what kind of record can you put together? That's why it's always so tricky to try to figure that 3 wild cards are going to come out of one division, because you're going to have your division winner. Then you have to expect the other 3 to be able to play at a high enough level to fend off a team like the Guardians, who are sitting in a division where they can mop up against games when they take on the Royals and the Tigers. And the same can be said for the AL West. Within shooting distance are the White Sox and Angels and Rangers. They're all within 5 games of the final wild card spot. Okay. You have to figure, White Sox are going to have a legitimate chance at their division. So we'll just put them aside for a second. Angels and Rangers are playing a really bad division. And so if one of those 2 teams can seize the moment and dominate the other in their series that they have left, when they're playing teams like the Oakland A's, who are just dreadful this year, and the Seattle Mariners, who have not gotten it together, not to the level that anyone expected, one of those 2 teams could creep up and grab that 3rd wild card, while the Rays, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays are just beating the hell out of each other. The National League, to me, this is a fun wild card, and it's going to be fun right down to the stretch. San Diego has a 2.5 game lead on San Francisco and Atlanta, who are deadlocked for the 2nd and 3rd wild card. Now, the Giants have played a couple less games. So they have 1 less win and 1 less loss. So by percentage points, they're technically in front of Atlanta. But this 4-game series is going to be huge. And remember, we're not going to have 1-game play-ins. If it comes down to a final stretch and you tie for a wild card, this goes for American League and National League, they're going to come down to season series and how did you fare? So Atlanta and San Francisco have got to look at this in the middle of June, that this could be for whether or not you get in the playoffs. Because if you don't win your division and it comes down to you 2, the tiebreaker is going to be head-to-head before it's anything else. Milwaukee's a 1/2 game behind Atlanta, as is St. Louis. And then Philly's within 2.5. After that, it gets a little muddled. You got Arizona and Miami are both 6.5 and 7.5 out of the final wild card, and Colorado's 8. We absolutely have to cut it off there. I don't even think Colorado is realistic. Miami's difficult because they play in such a tough division along with Arizona. I think when you really look at the National League wild card, unless some team goes on an insane run like Atlanta just did, Philly is the cutoff line. You got Philly, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Atlanta, San Francisco, and San Diego, all fighting for 3 wild card spots. And you can take one of the teams from the Central out, because obviously one of them will win the Central. So there you have that on the look of that. And before we leave, I just want to hit something up. I've seen 3 or 4 articles about this week. I saw it was actually brought to my attention last week from Justin, who's on the show regularly. And Justin asked me, my honest opinion about this off air, and I kind of had to scoff at it. And now it's getting momentum, and folks are out there giving credence to the fact that there are, and it's not just coming from one source, it's several sources of people saying that soccer is going to overtake all sports in America, in the United States, by 2026. And of course they're pointing that because that's when the Olympic, that's when the World Cup will be in the US, and the majority of it will be in the U.S., but they're actually going to play for the first time ever. They're going to play in other sites. They're going to play in Mexico City, and they're going to play in Canada. And so that's where the conversation is. Now, look, if you take the whole totality and you're going to go talk about the Mexico and Canada, all right, maybe if you take their two populations and you add it together, maybe you have a sort of a argument. But the comment was by Gianni Infantino, and it says by 2026, soccer will be the number one sport in this part of the world, meaning North America. It's just not going to be the case. Even if you get the landslide, we know it's number one in Mexico. That's a given. Canada's still really big on their national sport, which is hockey. But the United States is not going to fall in line and start putting soccer over the big two, which is football and baseball, and you can put the big three in there, the NBA. Now, could I see a situation where at the end of the 2026 World Cup, where you might see a shift of where younger fans might start watching more soccer than the NBA? Maybe. Because I think a lot of kids are going to grow up over the next several years not watching the NBA because their parents won't watch it. And that comes down to the fact that the NBA hitting their mess kit where they went full-blown woke America in 2020, and they ran off a good portion of their fans. They're still trying to get their fans back. The numbers came out for the NBA Finals, and it's better than last year, and obviously it's better than 2020 because 2020, I mean, there's like 3 people watching. But it's still not at the pre-pandemic level. And everyone keeps pointing to the pandemic, and they think it's, well, and it was funny because I saw an argument today on a New York sports talk show, and these two guys, when it comes to politics, they're just out of touch. And they were discussing it back and forth of, well, is it because we found other things to do during the pandemic and blah, 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 and blah, blah. No, it's because you ran everybody off with the stuff that you pulled, and people haven't came back. I've got good friends who are just starting to come back. And I mean, just starting to come back. And it's not realistic to think that it's going to be any different. You've got fans. As long as LeBron James is playing basketball, they're not coming back. There's a couple others that they're still steamed up, but he's the main one. And your bigger, ESPN, et cetera, you'll still see them keep using LeBron's likeness to try to draw in fans. I think they're doing a big disservice to the rest of the kids in the league. Look, people came out to watch Stephon versus Jason Tatum. If that would have been the Lakers, even with Los Angeles, if that would have been LeBron James versus anyone but the Celtics, because you get the Celtics-Lakers rivalry is always going to be there. Let's say it's LeBron versus Miami again. And it would be no fault of Miami, but they just don't have a huge fan base. The numbers would have been pathetic. It's why they were pathetic last year, because they were coming off the pandemic and people are still ticked off about the way the NBA and WNBA, for that matter, treated their fans by not respecting what the fans say and how the fans feel. And so you ran everybody off. You tried to bring them back with Milwaukee versus Phoenix. It's just not it's not a sexy matchup. Anything that Giannis or Chris Paul has done to tick off fans per se, but it wasn't a great matchup. Golden State of California versus Boston Celtics, that had a little more pizzazz. going forward, though, if LeBron finds his way back into the finals, I know several fans that are just going to they're going to tune him out, and that could be a possibility. Maybe soccer gets close. They're not going to overtake the NBA by 2026. I mean, my God, we're talking about 4 years from now. If the argument was that that soccer is that close to overtaking them, right? Why the hell don't we ever see any soccer on any primetime television, important primetime television at any time of the year? Because you can't count anything that you see on in primetime in the summer. It's filler. So you're not putting the MLS on over anything football related or Major League Baseball related, right? It's not. If ESPN has Sunday Night Baseball and they've got the MLS playoffs, guess what's going on ESPN too if they have the rights? Same thing with Fox. What Fox has always done football, right? But if Fox gets a playoff game in MLS, they're not going to take off a college football, we'll say, even, and it's not even as popular, but they're not going to take a Pac-12 college football game off to put the MLS on. That'll be on FS2 or your streaming device, as they say. And that's code for who gives a crap. I do find it odd that we look, if you think it doesn't speak volumes by why we see certain things on certain channels and why certain things go away, what the hell happened to the A-Rod cast? Remember, they're supposed to do this Manning cast. I haven't seen it in a couple of weeks. I haven't done a deep dive into it because I don't really care, but I'm assuming that they yanked it. I haven't seen it available on the Plus. It wasn't available last night. Why? Because nobody's watching it. And that's the same thing that you get with them. With the MLS, if you want to watch it, you're going to have to get the Plus, and you're going to get it on one of the 3,700 channels that they stream, and you can get it side by side with the American Conference Women's Basketball Game of the Week. And they'll be side by side. You can choose either one. And promoted right above it's going to be the newest episode of the Peyton Manning show, whatever that thing's called. And so it's absurd for people to think that anybody in the United States is going to kowtow and start watching soccer over the NFL and Major League Baseball, which frankly, I'm sorry, it's better products. It's not just because we grew up on them. It's because it's a better product. Watching people kick to a 0-0 game on a regular basis, or 1-0 or 1-1, 2-1, it's not as exciting as a diehard soccer fan will try to sell you on as any NFL game or a Major League Baseball game we'll just take their typical score, like a 6-4 game where there's a couple of home runs, credible defensive plays. It's not in a really good basketball game. We just didn't get many during the playoffs. A really good basketball game is going to dwarf that as well. And the other thing that I wanted to hit on that I thought was an interesting conversation piece on Twitter, I think it was yesterday, was which sport has the worst officiating in all the world of sports. Now, I'm going to put soccer aside because I don't follow it. Don't know enough about it. I will watch a little bit of EPL on a Saturday or Sunday morning with my morning coffee. But the moment that an American sport comes on, I'm changing the channel. Once you get first pitch of Major League Baseball or a football game, whatever, it's over. So I'm going to stick to the 4 major sports in America. I'm not going to count golf or tennis. Although I think tennis is probably, could argue, is the best. They've done the best with their replay devices. Golf's got too many screwy rules for anyone to take it serious. Of all the 4 major ones, I think the NBA is by far the worst. And it's not even close. It's not even like you can't even sit there and argue, oh, well, I don't know, this one game. No, the NBA is trash compared to the rest. Not just watching the NBA finals, but the entire NBA playoffs. And I had not tuned in a couple of years. I realized how bad it was. And then, okay, I know they made some adjustments over the past couple of years, but now they've got it to where, so you only get like the one challenge. Well, now they've got it where the coaches are afraid to use that challenge. I think the NBA needs to go to more of either giving the coaches multiple challenges per half. So we'll say 2. I don't want to sit there and have 10. 2 per half, especially in the playoffs. Regular season, let's do 1.5. But give them 2.5 because these are important plays. Or you go the worst route, and I don't like this route at all, would be that it's up to the officials like it is in college football. Because that just doesn't work, and then you're going to stop the game flow. But some of these calls that are being made are just atrocious. And I'm talking about simple calls, charges, fouls. The NBA's got the worst, and it's not even close. I think a close second, if you're going to make an argument for a close second, would be college football. But as I made the comment earlier in that thread that I was in, can you rate college coaches, college referees over the coals? I don't know. I mean, it's college. So these guys, they're not full-time jobs. So I think if you're going to rank them, people want to give Major League Baseball umpires a lot of guff. Honestly, they are by far the number one. It's MLB, NFL, and then probably NHL, and then NBA. And the reason why I say that is people will overblow the fact that a guy's back there making calls on about 260 to 300 balls and strikes per game, and he misses 3, and everyone wants to lose their mind. Before I do all my games, I always go in and look at the umpire ratings to kind of get an idea of what in the hell I'm going to go up against the sea that night. And your typical umpire is getting 92 to 95% strikes correct, and much higher on balls. It's usually in the high 90s. That's pretty damn good. You look at it from the NBA official standpoint, I'd be shocked if they're over 50% after what I saw in these playoffs. And I'm talking about the whole playoffs. It wasn't just one referee or one team that I was like, man, are they getting bad calls? No, it was the entire series. But the NBA finals, the conference finals, the semifinal, it was garbage. So that's my 2 takes on that. I'd love to hear y'all's response. Just put them in the chat, whether you're listening to the YouTube or on air. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Like I said, most Mondays, I'm going to try to do this around, it'll be a little past 8 a.m. Eastern. It'll be somewhere in that wheelhouse, and we should be able to get that going by this coming Monday. But I've got some things that are changing with my job daily, so I'm trying to figure out when I can squeeze this in, but I should be good to go next Monday morning. So we look forward to seeing you then, and have a great rest of your Monday. Tomorrow, we are going to have the Braves versus the Giants, 7:20 first pitch. And then I'm doing Thursday morning. It's actually 12:20 Eastern first pitch, but we'll come on the air late Thursday morning. And then, of course, the Friday night game. And then we'll have the pregame shows with Tones and Joey tomorrow night. And we'll have, hopefully, Justin will be back Friday. He had some issues, and hopefully everything is good to go. We shall see you. Have a great day. Please like and subscribe. See you tomorrow night.
Me out. to the ball game.